All right. My attendance. Jada, Jillian, Sophia. Wilson, Ryan. Oh, Hyatt, Tracy, Steve. Yeah, you guys were all cute. All right, kids. Hi, welcome back. Did you eat a lot of Easter candy? You didn't? I decided my favorite Easter candy, and it's not even that good, are those like Russell Stover chocolate eggs with marshmallow that come in like an egg carton. It's like an old lady thing. They're so like fluffy and delicious. And then the Starburst jelly beans, but the reds only. You can buy like the red only package. So thankfully the Easter Bunny brought those for my kids, even though they didn't ask for them. So good. Glad to see you. Welcome back. We are getting into our last unit in the class. So Microsoft Excel coming right at you. It's really cool. Okay, so like I'm not a math person, I'll admit it any day, and I have gotten a lot more comfortable with like accounting stuff and anything mathematical because I now like plug it all into an Excel spreadsheet. I've figured out how to make a computer automate math for me, and it has been a game changer. I hope that you guys learned something. Let's start our unit like we always do with note taking. So please open up Teams, get into your class notebook. Under your name, go into your class notes section and create a new page called Microsoft Excel. New section in your class notes, Microsoft Excel. Okay, so as in the past, any of these notes that I'm giving you guys today are going to be on your quiz. So we won't have this quiz for about 2 weeks when we wrap up the unit, but just so you're kind of prepared and aware, it's the same thing. It's terminology. It's taking a look at the interface of the application so that you can answer multiple choice questions regarding vocab. At home, you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so here we go with Microsoft Excel. Let's take some notes. First off, if you would please type out this essential question. There's only one essential question in this unit, and I think that it's nice to keep it in your notes so that when you're studying, you're ready for the reflection part of the quiz. All right, so So the one question that we need to focus on while we're learning all of these different skills and objectives in the unit is how can an Excel spreadsheet help us analyze data? Well, what does it mean to analyze data? Like in my head, initially, what comes to mind is like science experiments. You know, you're analyzing a bunch of like numbers and seeing how they measure up against each other or whatever. But it doesn't even necessarily have to be that. Okay, Microsoft Excel can help you analyze data by like alphabetizing lists. It can help you analyze data by grouping similar values or even items. It could help you analyze data again by doing calculations, finding mathematical answers for you. It's pretty awesome. So there are a bunch of ways that we're going to learn how Excel can be useful when you're organizing and analyzing data. Okay, some vocab. The very first thing we need to understand is the differentiation between the term workbook and worksheet. It really isn't that difficult. Okay, if you think about the difference between a book and a sheet, like a textbook and a sheet or a page in it, it's sort of the same thing. When you open up a Microsoft Excel document, it's a bunch of boxes, right? Are you familiar? Have you ever seen that? Maybe you've used Google Sheets before. When you open up that main document, the main document is called the workbook. Within that workbook, you can have multiple worksheets. So how it usually works is like you want to organize all kinds of information that has to do with one topic. That one main topic is your workbook. And the different pieces of information that fall into it are your worksheets. I'm going to show you an example of an actual working document that I use now in Microsoft Excel. So you know I run the Spirit Shop and I have to do like all of the accounting, like putting together spreadsheets, how much money we made each month. I've been doing this for 2 years. This is what a spreadsheet, a workbook looks like, okay? It's just this whole big page here, all these different cells with data. This workbook is titled Spirit Shop Deposits up top here. That is the document. If you look down below, I have all of these little tabs on the bottom that are marked with different dates or date ranges. And it goes so far that like you have to actually like arrow across to see all of them. These are the monthly deposits for the Spirit Shop over the past 2 years. These are the worksheets within the workbook called Spirit Shop Deposits. See what I mean? You might be doing some kind of fundraising for student council, and you may want to separate the funds coming in by class level. So you could have an entire workbook called, Fall Fundraiser Student Council, and you'll have a separate worksheet, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. There's so many different ways to use the spreadsheet to get organized. Okay, so that was the difference between what a workbook and a worksheet is. The next thing I want you guys to write down is worksheet tabs. Worksheet tabs are these little boxes that are like actual file folder tabs at the bottom of the interface, and they could be renamed. You could really customize them. You could even color code them. But that's going to be the way you differentiate different parts or pieces of information that falls under the same topic. Worksheet tabs will help you do that. Right? And in a couple modules down the road here, you're going to learn how to really customize those. Okay, the next thing is super important. Knowing the difference between columns, rows, and cells. So just type in your notes, columns, rows, and cells, and then I'll kind of elaborate on each of these. Columns, rows, and cells. All right, so columns, as you can see in this image here, columns go vertically up and down a sheet. Okay, it's the information that's listed vertically up and down a sheet. So columns are labeled at the top with capital letters. So just like a column in architecture that's like from the roof down to the ground, a column in a spreadsheet or a worksheet goes from top to bottom. Next are the rows. Rows go horizontally across a worksheet left to right. Rows are the horizontal listings of information and data, and they are labeled with numerals. Columns are capital letters, rows are numerals. Finally, what you're seeing here kind of framed out in black is a cell. All of those little boxes that you see when you open up a fresh workbook or you're looking at a worksheet, you're going to see hundreds of them on a page. Each of those is called a cell. All right. So the next note talks a little bit more about the cell. Okay, the cell is that small little box, but it is pretty much the most complicated part about this application. Okay, these are 4 separate terms that will be part of your quiz. I'm going to go into each one of them. Okay, the first one is active cell. What is an active cell? When you open up a spreadsheet, an active cell will always be highlighted with a frame. In Excel 2016, which we use, it's green. Did you guys notice, like when we worked in Microsoft Word, the theme color for the whole interface was blue and white? In PowerPoint, it's orange and white. In Excel, it's green and white, just like the Celtics. Okay, so this is an active cell, and I know it is active because it's been clicked on, apparently, and it has this green frame. Okay, an active cell, once it's selected, has what's called a cell reference. The next term is cell reference. The cell reference is kind of just like its own name. Every single one of those little boxes on a big worksheet has its own name, own identity. Okay, it's also known as a cell address because it's kind of like where that cell lives on the worksheet. That's why they call it an address. So the way to mark a cell with a cell reference or cell address is that you find the intersecting points of the column and the row. It'll always be posted up on the interface in the top left too. So this cell that you see active is actually called cell C5 because it's the intersecting point here of column C, row 5. Next up, and this is the most amazing part of the entire thing, the fill handle. The fill handle, I've also named like using the Force, or I say it's like Harry Potter's magic wand. This little dot, or this little tiny box that's on the bottom right corner of a cell seems so insignificant, but this is like the magic making thing on the entire software. A fill handle will copy information from a cell across as many cells as you want. Hard to explain, easier to understand when you actually use it. Let me just try to explain it. If I had a list of 300 people and I was making columns that was like checking off every time they turned in an assignment, instead of having to go through and be like X, enter, X, enter, X, enter down this row of 300 people, if I put an X in the cell next to the first person to say that they did it, and I grab this fill handle, I click and hold, and would drag down, it would just make X's all the way down the entire thing. Also, when we get into using formulas and functions where you're doing mathematical equations, if you can set up a mathematical equation for one column of data that you want to recalculate for a bunch of different columns, you just put it in one and you use the fill handle. When you let it go, it's like the math is all done in instant. So cool. Wait till you see it happen in action. All right, so the last thing we're going to talk about are cell ranges. Cell ranges. You can select columns and rows of cells in 2 different ways. Okay, what you're seeing right here on the slide, just a certain amount of cells have been selected inside a column, and here only a certain amount of cells have been selected in a row. You can also select an entire column and row into infinity. I'm going to show you both these things. Okay, so here's my spreadsheet. I want to select just the cells B1 through B6. Maybe I want to like change all of the color of the font to red for some reason, whatever. So if I just want to only select these six cells, I could do this by clicking on the top one, holding and dragging down, highlighted it. Fantastic. I could also click on the top cell in my grouper range, then click on the shift key and click on the bottom cell. Boom, selected all of it. But if I wanted to select this entire column down into who knows where, I could just come up above the label for the column and my cursor turns into this like heavy dark arrow pointing down. And if I click there, it selects all of it. See the difference? Like between just selecting parts of like cells within a column and then selecting the entire column. Same thing goes with the row. If I just wanted to select the data in row 5 here, I could just click and drag, or I could click in the first cell, hold shift and click in the last cell. But if I wanted to click row 5 into infinity, I would go over to the label, my cursor turns into a dark black arrow, and I would click and the whole thing goes on and on and on. All right, what if I wanted to select a range of cells that's like a chunk, not just a little line like this or this? If I wanted to select a big range of cells that's in like a group, you can do that kind of in the same way. Okay, you can either click on A1 and hold your click and then diagonally drag down to where you want to finish. And if you let go, it selects it. Or I could click in A1, hold shift on my keyboard and click on F8 to select that whole group. Sometimes you're going to have to select cells that are not adjacent. Do you remember what adjacent means, like in geometry? What does it mean? Yeah. When like one side is touching the other. Right, so on an actual Excel worksheet, like the two cells that I just selected right now here are adjacent because they're sharing this middle piece. Okay, if I even selected a range, like all of these guys, these are adjacent cells because they're all sharing a side. But what if I wanted to pick like this cell and this one and this one and this one for some reason? I can't just click and drag or use my shift key to do that. I'm going to have to hold down control on your keyboard as you click through the multiple non-adjacent cells that you want to highlight on the worksheet. Right, so do you see how now I highlighted all these different ones that do not have an adjacent side? You use the control key to do that. This little video here, it shows you could also, so this person's holding control while they're clicking all these different non-adjacent cells. You could even like keep holding control and click and drag to get this whole chunk selected. Interesting. All right, lastly, there are 4 data types. I sort of mentioned this already. You could be analyzing text or labels. If I was, which I am, in charge of ordering the Celtic Energy t-shirts for all the different classes, I get a spreadsheet that they download from like the Power School thing that your parents did that has every kid's name and what t-shirt size they said that you should get. I can analyze that data in multiple ways. I could alphabetize everybody. I can make boys and girls separated. I could separate out how many people ordered small, medium, large, extra large. That's when you're analyzing text and labels. Okay, values would be numbers. or quantities. Formulas and functions are what we're going to start talking about tomorrow, and that's the mathematical equations. Okay, you can use Excel to do the math for you. 4 data types. Lastly, and I'll post this inside our files, there are keyboard shortcuts that are really kind of fancy in Microsoft Excel. A lot of them you already know, simple, universal ones like copy and paste and cut and all of that. But if you are ever thinking about going into finance, accounting, you're going to be using Excel, and most professionals are using these keyboard shortcuts like crazy. Like one time I was talking to somebody and he's like, "Yeah, I've never once used my like mouse to do anything in Excel. It's all keyboard shortcuts." I'm like, nice flex, nerd, but good for you. I'm glad that works out. But it's really kind of cool just to see all the different things that you can do without even using your trackpad. When you're dealing with formulas, functions, numbers, and you use your mouse to move things around, there's always that chance that you're going to accidentally click and drag and move things into a different cell, column, or row that could completely destroy all of your data. That's why a lot of professionals go with a keyboard shortcut method, because it's a little bit cleaner, more efficient way. Do you guys have questions on the notes? That's all we got on the notes, so you could close the notes and let's go into our assignments. We're going to do 2 modules together today. So at home, you guys need to follow with me and turn these in before the end of class to get your points. I hope you heard that. Same will go tomorrow, actually. Yeah, tomorrow I'm going to work with you guys through module 2, so make sure that you're following with me to turn in the work. This is like the gift of 4th quarter. Almost all of the homework we do together in class. So if you do it, you go through the steps, you turn it in, you're going to like ace 4th quarter pretty much. Okay, so the first assignment I want you guys to open is called Cell Basics. Is that there? Cell Basics. Back when we were doing our lessons in Microsoft Word, remember I used to be all annoying and I'd be like, let's play a role. Let's pretend that we're the person who runs the homeowners association and we're making a newsletter for the apartment complex. And I mean, yeah, it helps you kind of understand why what we're doing makes sense. It's especially important to do that, like kind of role playing in Excel. It'll click much easier. So let's look at what our first assignment is all about here. Okay, your role with this actual worksheet is you work for like HR, you know, human resources for a company. Our company is like an insurance company. And as a human resources person, an HR person, your job is all about hiring, firing, training, benefits, salary stuff for your employees. So you're like the person who's kind of the people organizer for the entire corporation. Okay, so we work for an insurance company, and this group of individuals is up for recertification, and they need to take 3 tests to get this updated certification. So you have listed out who the people are, what department they work in. You want to get their usernames, and as they finish each section of the certification tests, you're checking them off just to stay organized. Okay, so a couple things. You're going to see some magic happen here, but you really need to follow instructions. Okay, so like if I tell you a certain way to do it, it's not going to work unless you type things exactly how I'm asking you, all right? So are we ready? Let's do some cool stuff.
Wait, hold on. What are we like Okay, so what are we writing this down on?
On the actual sheet. Did you open it yet? In the assignment?
I'm trying to find it. I can't find it.
You all got it, right? Inside your assignments, there should be something called Cell Basics, and there's like a document attached. You got to open it in Excel. I feel like I'm
Oh my gosh. Team. Sorry.
Yeah, in Teams. on the three dots, open in Excel. I didn't even go through this with you guys. That was my bad. Make sure you save a copy right away to your OneDrive. Save it as CB21. Save it to your OneDrive as CB21. You good, Bella?
Yeah, I got it now.
Okay, awesome. Okay, step one, everybody. We only have what, like, this is literally how bad I am at math. Like, I look at this list and I'm like, how many people are there? We go up to 18 rows, but there are 4 rows at the top. It's 14, isn't it? 14 people. Smart. Too much in my brain. Okay, so we have 14 employees. You could be working with 700. 700, and these same steps would all apply. Okay, so we are creating a username for the software, the testing software that our employees need to go in to recertify. I can see here that Walter Rivera, we have his username, W Rivera, so that's giving me the heads up that, okay, it's going to be first initial, last name. Click in and activate cell D6, which is to the right of Heidi Lee, and let's type in what her username is going to be, which is HLEE, and then hit enter on your keyboard. Our next employee is Josie Gates. Type in J Gates, hit enter on your keyboard. Wendy Crocker, W C. OMG, what's going on here? Look at this. It's like the computer already cracked the code, and it's saying, oh, I think you mean this, don't you? It already is showing us a preview of all the other usernames in the entire list, just because it's intuitive, and it's like getting inside our heads. If you just click anywhere here down in this list, poof, it just automatically filled all of those for you. Yes. Speak up, I'm sorry. It didn't work for you? Were you following the instructions like I asked to, like you click, you type the first initial, last name, hit enter. First initial, last name, hit enter. Then when you get to Wendy Crocker and you put in WCR, it should have populated a list for you. I'll come look at you later. Did people get this? Pretty awesome. So like I was saying, if there were 250 names, it would do that for you. It automatically, it's a little stocky, not gonna lie, but whatever, we'll take it. Okay, so that's how you can populate something like that. The program itself will figure out the code. All right, the next thing we're going to do. Sometimes you're going to want to erase information, but not delete the row. Like you want to keep the row or the column there, but you want to erase everything that's in it. It's called clearing the contents. We're going to pretend that Alvin Rios here, he no longer works for the company, so we don't need to track his recertification anymore. So I'm going to come over onto the row label, the number 14, and get the heavy black arrow so I can click and select the entire row 14. The entire thing into infinity, okay? Not just ending on this actual what we can see section. Okay, to clear these contents, I'm going to come up into my ribbon, go into this editing group, and there's a little eraser that says clear with a drop arrow. In this clear drop down icon, we'll go to clear contents. So I got rid of Elvin's information, but I didn't delete his row. I'm going to use that row later. You guys all get that part? Did you say no? You're going to go into your ribbon. To the editing group, there's this little clear icon. It's an eraser. And you want to select to clear contents. One thing too, you guys maybe already know this because this could have happened to you during PowerPoint and Word. If you're working on like a non-maximized interface, like if you have Teams open on half of your screen and then Excel on the other half, you might not see the full ribbon. So sometimes it's a little tricky. Some of the stuff doesn't show up as easily. All right, the next thing we're going to do. We're going to actually now delete a column. I've decided that column G is no longer necessary because nobody's on hold for taking these tests. We're all ready to go. So I want to delete this entire column G. So I'll come up to the top over the actual letter, the label, and get that dark, bold arrow pointing down and click. Now there's going to be a difference here. When I cleared the contents, that row stayed, okay, but everything went away. This time, I want to get rid of G completely. But what's going to happen is when you delete something like a column or a row, everything to the right of it is going to shift over. Okay, and when it shifts over, we're still going to see a column called G, but it's going to be this stuff right here that's currently in H. Does that make sense? It's a little hard to explain. So like when I delete this column, H, I, and J are all going to scoot over and become the new G, H, and I. Okay, watch how this happens. Right click on top of the G in the column header, and then go to delete. Now you can see that what was just a second ago in column H is now over in it's the new G. G has been redefined because it shifts everything over. Now if I were to come down here, don't do this, but if I were to delete row 14, this HR Brian Gaines section would be right up in underneath accounting Elizabeth Hicks and become the new 14 because stuff shifts up. Okay, next, easy step. I want to select multiple cells. So if I want to select multiple cells, remember I could either click on one and drag across and release, or I could click on one, hold shift, and then click on the last one. So either way that you do it, I want you guys to select A18 through E18 so that these 5 cells, just like on mine, are all highlighted. As we used in both of the other apps, shortcuts on our keyboard. If we wanted to cut something, do you remember what the shortcut is? Jacob, X. Control X. Let's all hit on our keyboards Control X. And now you'll see that that highlighted section, those cells have like the dotted line. It's kind of like in kindergarten in first grade when your teacher would give you a piece of paper and be like, cut on the dotted line. We know that the cut shortcut has been activated because we have the dotted line. I want to remove this data and put it up into this row 14. So I'm going to click on A14. And I'm going to use my keyboard shortcut to paste, which is Control V. And now I just bumped Michael Russell up onto that blank row. So in Excel, you can select cells, cut and paste them into a different area very easily without having to retype everything out. All right, one more step in this one. It's the end of the week, and everybody who's on my list ended up finishing part 2 of the certification test. Instead of going through and typing X, enter, X, enter, X, enter, I'm going to use the magic fill handle. Let's do this. It's your first experience with it. So excited for you. Okay, so you're going to select and activate cell F8. It's the final X that we have currently here in our column under part 2. In this bottom right corner, you'll see that tiny little green square. If you hover your mouse over that, it's going to turn your cursor into just a plain cross or a plus sign. What you want to do is click and hold and drag all the way down to F17 and release. Should have copied all of the X's for you. Poof, just like that. Without having to do X, 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 X. Hey, easy. Does yours look like mine? There's one more thing I want to do, just because I'm kind of type A and like the aesthetic bothers me here. Do you notice how this like golden section is going past and beyond like where the data stops on my spreadsheet? I want to get rid of this gold. So if I click up here in H1 and I shift and I click on I2, so I selected this little square. I'm again going to go into my home ribbon menu, editing section. This time I'm going to go into my clear, but I'll select clear formats because that color there is a format. I'm going to clear format, and now it's just plain old white, and it lines up and it looks prettier. Yes. Okay. All right, once you guys have this, give yourself an insurance save, Control S. Add this to the assignment in Teams and turn it in. I thought it was chalk, but it's okay. Click into and then hit enter. And then hit enter. And then M, which I just realized here. Now M, hit enter. Now M, that's okay. Keep going. Enter again. Enter again. Sophia B, did yours not do the username autofill because you're on a Mac?
So, it did the like first one, but not not the rest.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what the difference is. I'm not sure what the difference is, but on the Mac, I would have to kind of look into that, but it's okay. It's okay. What's up? Did you rename it?
Miss Moss,
Yeah.
I just got kicked out of the call. What did you do?
A lot of stuff that I'm not gonna just repeat right now. We gotta keep going, but I'm recording this class, so you can watch it later.
No, just like the last step. Like I left 5 seconds ago.
When I said to turn it in? Did you copy
Like-
the X's in under part 2?
The part after that, like with the yellow box.
Oh, okay, so just select like that, the extra section of gold at the top by selecting H1 through I2. And then you go into this editing section, go to clear, and pick clear format.
Okay.
All right, guys, once you've got that turned in, let's open up the next one. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. My ear is like clogged from my allergies. You don't have that one? Is it up in like, do you know how you have to go like to the upstairs menus on a Mac? I'll be there in a sec. Everybody open up the next assignment called Modifying Columns, Rows, and Cells. it should look like that. All right, guys, so our new role, we're not in HR anymore. Now you work in sales. And maybe you work for the company that like produces and prints like merch for different companies. Like if I wanted to get stuff for the Spirit Shop, I could be on somebody's contact list, right? That they try and sell me their company's stuff. Different schools or businesses that create T-shirts for events and whatever. Okay, so that's what I do. I have all these different companies and contacts that I work with. I have the address that I send my invoices to. I have their contact information if I need to get in touch with them. So you're just a salesperson who's got a nice organized customer contact list. We're going to do, with this assignment, some adjusting of the way things appear on the spreadsheet. So like more formatting types of changes. All right, like when you're looking at this, just notice how under the billing address column, a lot of these addresses get cut off. Like you can't see the rest of the work. If you were to just click on one of the cells of the addresses, you could see up above that information, it's not just done. Like they finish off the address. You can see it up top. It's just not currently visible with the format settings that are in place. Okay, so we're going to find out different ways that we can mess with the formatting so that things all appear the way that you want them to. Okay, and before we start getting into this one, we're going to watch the video tutorial. Now, what's happening in this video, do not make these changes on your document. This is not what you're getting graded on. This is not the assignment. It's just going to teach you some of the different tools that are useful in modifying. Okay, so do not, I repeat, do these steps yet.
Goodwill Community Foundation, creating opportunities for a better life.
In Excel, every workbook is different. That means you may want to modify certain things, like the size and layout of your cell, to better fit the data you're working with. This column has been resized, for example, but not quite enough. Most of the text is still getting cut off. I'm going to increase the width a little bit more by positioning my mouse over the line in the column heading, then clicking and dragging it to the right. Another option is to auto-size the column. This will automatically adjust the width so that it fits the contents of the cells exactly. Just double-click the line instead of dragging it. Now the column is perfectly sized to the text. Rows work the same way. You can adjust them manually or auto-size them to fit the height of your text. Sometimes it's useful to be able to resize all of your cells at once. In this example, I'd like to make all of my rows the exact same height. To do this, click the Select All button in the top left corner. Then resize a row, it doesn't matter which one, and the change will be applied to the entire worksheet. Next, I need to add another row to this list. I'd like to put it in between row 4 and row 5. To add a new row, all you have to do is select the row heading below where you want the new one to appear. Then click the Insert command. The process is similar for inserting a new column. Just select the column heading to the right of where you want the new one to go. Click the Insert command, and a column will appear to the left. Deleting columns and rows is just as easy. First, select the column or row you want to delete, then click the Delete command. The column or row will be deleted, causing the other cells to move and fill in the gap automatically. Just remember that there's a difference between clearing and deleting. Deleting cells removes them from your worksheet. Clearing just removes the contents. You can also move a column or row to a different location. In this example, we'll move a column. All you have to do is select the one you want, then click the Cut command. Next, select the column to the right of where you want the column to be moved. Click the Insert drop-down menu on the ribbon, Then choose Insert Cut Cells. Another useful technique for rearranging data is the ability to hide certain columns or rows. For example, I don't really need to see these 3 columns right now. I'd rather focus on the customer's email addresses. If we right-click, then choose Hide from the menu, the columns temporarily disappear. To unhide them, select the columns on either side of the ones that are hidden, then right-click again, and choose Unhide. Let's fast forward to the finished worksheet. Next, I'd like to take a look at wrapping text, which is one way of addressing cells that contain more text than they can actually display. For example, I'd like to resize my column of addresses to about half its current size, but still be able to see the contents. We can do this using the wrap text command on the ribbon. As you can see, this displays the text on multiple lines. Now for the finishing touch, combining the cells in the top row so the title of my worksheet can be centered in a single large cell. To do this, select the cells you want to merge, then click the Merge and Center command. There, that's perfect. To access more merge options, open the drop-down menu here. You can merge across, creating merged rows instead of a single large cell if you have multiple cells selected. You can also merge without centering, or split your cells up again. There is a downside to using the merge command though. If you want to merge multiple cells, each containing data, merge will only keep the contents of the upper left cell and discard everything else. So you should be careful when using this feature. The best way to learn about merging cells, wrapping text, and working with columns and rows is to practice. So the next time you're using Excel, look for ways that you can customize your worksheet to better fit your data.
Thank you. Let's do some stuff. Okay. First thing we're going to change on hours. All right. So they mentioned the use of the select all in the top left corner between like the A and the 1 up here. There's this little wedge. When you click on that wedge, it selects the entire worksheet, right? Everything is picked. So any changes that you make in formatting will be applied to every single cell on the worksheet. We're going to do something to adjust the width, width across of our cells so that the columns themselves will automatically fit to the longest piece of data in that column. For example, like all of these addresses are cut off, right? If I use my auto fit column width tool, it's going to find whatever one of these cells has the longest address and make this entire column C open up so that that information will all show. Here's what I mean. Let's go into format up in our ribbon. The fourth option down is auto fit column width. Click on that, and now you'll see that everything's spread out. In your column C, the billing addresses are now all fully visible, nothing's cut off. All right, you might be looking at the company name column here, column A, and thinking like, why is there all this empty space? Well, it's there because customer contact list is part of column A, and look how wide that goes. So it actually fit your width off of those 3 words. So now everything's visible. How we did that again, you clicked on that select all, the wedge in the top left, go into the cells group format options, and click on auto fit column width. All right, the next thing I want to do, because when I'm looking at this contact list, I feel like all of this is super cramped. It's just smashed together. And I want to kind of increase the height of these rows so that the information that's typed in there isn't so smashed on top of each other. So I'm going to select all of the rows 3 through 14. So if I click on 3, hold shift on my keyboard, and then click on 14, it's going to select all of those rows. So they told us that you could like kind of just like drag, once you have those all selected, if you drag your cursor that looks like this little line with the up and down arrow, it would make the change for all of them. But it's even more precise if you want it to be. If you click, right click, when you have all of these rows selected, if you right click over here, you should get an option in this menu that says row height. Select that option, row height, and you get this cute little pop-up box. It shows us that right now the row height in pixels here for each of these rows is 17.25. I'm going to manually override that by typing in 22.5. When you type in 22.5 and click OK, now it has just increased the height in rows 3 through 14. Just slightly, just enough. It's just a little bit more spread out, isn't it? I mean, even like if you look at these row labels, you could tell, like when you look at 15, 16, 17, 18, those numbers are like smack dab in that box, like all squished in. But in these, you see there's a little space above them. Pardon me? Okay, so you had to select the rows, 3 through 14. And then if you right click over there, you want to go to row height. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is delete a row. Riley Garden Supply, stop paying invoices. I am not doing business with these people anymore. Deadbeats, no thank you. I want to delete them, and by deleting them, just shift up all of these other contacts up in the list. So I'm going to click on the 10 label over on this left side column here. Click on the 10. And I could go up and hit this delete command, or you could right click here on the 10 and then select delete. Either way works. There's almost always two ways to do things. So when I deleted it, it got rid of the old 10, shifted everything else up, so now instead of having 14 rows, I just have like 13. Any Parks and Rec fans in here? Do you guys see it's like Leslie Knope? Nope Equestrian Center and Lil Sebastian, the horse? No? Okay. Alright, the next thing we're going to do. We want to insert a column to the left of column C. So it was kind of cool. It said anytime you want to insert a column or a row, it's going to go either to the left of or above where you're selecting. The easy way to remember that is like if I want to insert something, it's always going to put it like the column that I select here to insert, it's always going to say, you go right ahead in front of me. Or if I was going to insert a row in here and I wanted it to be like in between New Haven and Overlook, I would click on the 9 because the 9 would say, you go right ahead above me. They're just polite, okay? So we're going to click on column C, and we're going to right click and go to insert. Whenever you insert, it goes in front of. It wants us in all caps to type in secondary contact in cell C2. When you type in secondary contact, it's not all going to show once you move out of that cell, because we had not auto-fit the column width for that column. That came after we did that. So yours should look like mine, where it gets cut off, but you know that the text is there, because up here in this like search bar it's there. So in order for us to see the word contact, I want to, instead of widening the width of column C, I just want to bump the word contact to come underneath secondary. To do that, I'm going to click on that cell, C2, and up above here in the alignment group, I need to select the wrap text tool. You may have the tool that has the words wrap text next to it, or you may just have the little AB with the C and that loopy arrow. If you click on that, it's going to bump the word contact below secondary. You don't do what I'm doing right now, okay? But let's just say I wanted this billing address column to be way shorter. I can make it shorter, the width of it, you know, like that. And then if I select this information and say wrap text, it would like make it line up correctly so you can see everything. But we're not going to do that. We already get messy with that. Okay, keep it just like this. Next step, we're going to merge and center this top customer contact list heading. So what that means is I have all these little cells up here at the top, all separate. I want to merge them, make it just one long white cell, and have these three words center in the middle. So select cell A1, hold shift and click F1, so you can get that whole line there. A1 through F1. In the alignment group, you'll find the merge and center tool. You may have the words, you may just have the little icon. And when you click that, that cell becomes just one super long cell, and the words get centered in the middle. One more step. I want to hide a couple columns because I'm not really interested right now in the secondary contact, the billing address, and the phone number. I just want to be able to quickly glance at this customer contact list and just see the company, the person, and their email. I don't want to delete this stuff though, or I don't want to clear the contents. Like I need this information at some point, just not today. So I'm going to use the hide feature. We're going to hide columns C, D, and E. One way to do this is to click on C, hold shift, and then click on E. Or you could have just clicked on the C and dragged across to E. And once those three columns are highlighted, if you right click, you should find the option for hide. I know that I didn't delete those columns because look at the column labels. It now goes A, B, F. If I would have deleted those or cleared them, I would have still seen the C, D, and E, right? But because they exist, they're just hiding out, it goes from B to F. You can even kind of see up here, like a little double parallel line. That lets us know that there are more columns that are hidden. Right, so if you did all of these steps correctly, yours should look like mine, where you have customer contact list on top, only 3 columns visible, company name, contact name, email address. Give me a Control C to save. Add that baby to Teams and turn it in for 10 points.
Miss Moss,
Yeah.
how do you like extend customer contact lists like the all the way up?
Okay, so that was using the merge and center. Let me go back here. Okay, so it did look like this, right? And these are all like separate cells up here. So the first thing you want to do is select these cells, A1 through F1. You can't just click on the one. You don't want the whole row selected, just A1 through F1. Then in the alignment group, there's an icon or a command for merge and center. Any other questions?
Miss Moss,
Yes.
I accidentally merged all my cells to H1. How do I get it back to F1?
I would just undo until you get back to where customer contact list was an A1 and then try again.
Okay.
I mean, I guess another option would be you could just select it and go to the drop down next to merge center and say unmerge. Any other questions? All right, kids at home, if you submit that work, you're free to leave the call. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Miss Moss,
Yeah.
should we submit it with the rows hidden?
With the what?
With C and D hidden?
Yes. C, D, and E, right?
Yeah.
Yes. All right, you guys here tomorrow, we're gonna do some more, so make sure that you're on the call. And you're following with me so that you can get the points. But we're done for the day.